You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozar. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday, 21st of May. Pakistani taxi driver deported back home after raping Brit. Albanian gets 5 years for rape. Russian oligarch with ties to the royals is executed. Cameron tells the Greeks to stay put in the failed Eurozone. Pakistan's greed ignored by Barack Obama. 70 killed in suicide bomb attack in Yemen. Golly dolls invade Oz. Thought for the day, voters or colonists? UK news. A Pakistani taxi driver has been deported back to Pakistan. Abid Mahood attacked a British woman in Buckinghamshire and was jailed for 7.5 years, but was deported after 3 years by the border agency. An Equalities and Human Rights counsellor, Mrs Ranjula Takodra, MBE, in Aylesbury, was said to be supporting the rapist's wife through her difficult time. One BNP spokesperson said, "Where was the Equalities Commission to support the victim? Doesn't the title Equalities and Human Rights extend to us British? We trust his family will be deported as well to avoid another difficult time." Along these same lines, an asylum seeker has got 5 years in jail for rape. Albanian Shakir Kolici attacked a woman as she was lost in a Gloucestershire park. Kolici lied to the authorities by saying the woman had set him up and that he could not return to Albania as he had enemies there. The judge called his story ludicrous. A Russian oligarch whose name has been linked with Princess Michael of Kent was shot in Russia yesterday. Mikhail Kravchenko, 46, who was photographed holding hands with the princess in 2006 and remained friendly with the Kent family, was professionally and ruthlessly killed, according to Russian police. This is even stranger news considering a news item on Saturday's Mail on the 19th of May, in which the headline ran along the lines that Prince Michael is favoured by many of the immensely wealthy Russian oligarchs to be their new Tsar. Of course, Prince Michael, whose bloodline descends from that family, shows a marked resemblance to the old Tsar. Prince Michael has visited Russia many times over the last years and has many friends there. Ibidepo Docherty has been jailed for raping a woman in London. Named the Euston rapist, Docherty stalked his victim in a pub in the Euston district of the capital. Drunk, he lured the woman back to his flat and raped her. He then robbed her of all her belongings and then abandoned her. Ibidepo received 8.5 years this week for rape and sexual assault. Euronews. David Cameron has spoken out that the Greeks must keep their pledge and stay in the EU. The Greeks are still struggling, trying to set up a government, and in Athens the Greek population have been heard shouting, "Bring back the drachma." Some Greeks have said it would be great to return to the drachma, but it would have to be timed. If the return was too sudden, there may not be enough time to print the entire drachma needed to keep the economy rolling. World news. The Pakistani president has been sidestepped by the US President Barack Obama. The US President ignored Pakistan's greed for wanting $3,000 for every military US or NATO truck that passed through its country to take food or weapons to serving soldiers in Afghanistan. Reports of a suicide bombing in Yemen are coming in. At least 70 people are reported to have been killed in a suicide bomb attack in the capital Sana'a. Security forces have claimed that the attack was on a rehearsal for a military parade in the capital this week and which will be attended by the Yemeni President Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi. The assailant, who was reportedly wearing army uniform, blew himself up amongst a group of soldiers in Al Sabeen Square near the presidential palace. An Al-Qaeda source told the BBC one of its members had carried out the attack. Golly dolls cause outrage in Australia. Yup, our old friend the Robinsons' Golly has done it again. Some Chinese firm imported the ever-popular Gollywog doll to some shops in Brisbane. One shop sells about 20 per week. However, at Jobsworth, Bob Weatherall, the chairman of the Centre for Indigenous Cultural Policy, has labelled our little black friends as offensive and stated it doesn't bring unity within the community. Anti-racism activists have succeeded in removing gollywogs from the public eye in Britain, the US and Europe. A World at 8 reporter commented, "Soon we will need a centre for Indigenous culture ourselves as white people, and I think Gollywog dolls certainly need their own campaigners." Thought for the day, voters or colonists? Before anyone says that this is yet another Islamophobe rant, you all need to take a step back, and although we in the British National Party do not need a lesson in the realities of this world or our country today, anyone who listens to me and is not a nationalist will really think, what is she talking about? Well, I have just digested a fact of which I was not aware. Once again it is down to people who have let me have possession of facts which are generally not published, or if they are usually quickly consigned to the nutter bin for fear of the recipient being seen as racist, non-PC, anti-Islam, just to name a few. I, like so many nationalists, was thrilled when Marine Le Pen secured the huge number of votes in the primaries of the French general elections. I thought, hooray, a chance for France to ditch Sarkozy and grow a pair. It never occurred to me, despite the pre-election polls, that when Hollande was made president, it was the Muslim vote that put him there. I was sorry at the outcome because socialists do not appeal to me much, but I thought the French people had made their choice. Well, in a matter of speaking, a portion of them have. In fact, 93% of the French Muslim population voted in favour of François Hollande. He is the first socialist president since 1995. Hollande has also pledged to change French electoral laws so that Muslim residents without French citizenship would be allowed to vote in municipal elections as of 2014, enabling the Socialist Party to tighten its grip on political power. Now, I think we can all understand in this country, in the GLA London elections and in some of the most heavily Islamified cities in Britain, exactly why Labour made the meagre inroads it did and we who speak for the British public did not. Many Brits didn't vote and many Muslims did. What other country in the world takes people off the banana boat and gives them the vote? Just the United Kingdom. It is obvious to all that the Muslim vote is growing in number and they will never vote for a nationalist government. Why not, I hear you say, if they have the good of this country at heart and its people? Because we want England back, and make no bones about it. A cosmopolitan society is fine, but an Islamic state is not. Labour have adopted these people and other ethnic groups for the time being, under the old communist adage, do what you have to do get into power and then do anything you like. The main political parties must have so little respect for the people of this country that they do not trust them to make their own decisions, or perhaps they do, and that is not what is desired either by the establishment or by the European Union. It also explains the rush with which Margaret Hodge literally bussed in hordes of ethnics into Barking and Dagenham during the last general election. About this time Labour was still trying to get the prison vote underway. In fact, although this has been granted now, efforts to bring this law into being were frantic from the then Labour government. The original idea is of course from the European Court of Human Rights, that prisoners are not allowed to lose their right to vote just because they have offended society, so to speak. Of course, yet another Labour ploy for votes not so eagerly taken up by the coalition government, who at least justified a 6-month extension on this particular piece of social engineering. On the actual prison stats, the numbers are down as of December 2011, 88,179 prisoners in the UK and Wales. Scotland 8,301. 11,077 are foreign nationals, Jamaica, Poland and Ireland being the first three. Asians account for 5.5% and British Asians 7.3%. In 2010, Muslims accounted for 12.6% of the prison population. There has been a huge increase in immigration and crime since then, of course. The prison population increased by 4% each year from the years of 1993 to 2008, and at no time was the reason given as immigration. Those numbers must have risen considerably, and of course all of them can vote as well. Do you wonder why all European countries are either on the course of the right, or if heavily populated by Muslims, on course for what their governments think is socialism, but in fact will be a fundamentalist Islamic state? Our governments and other European states seem to think that by giving Muslims the vote, these parasites will vote for any party that opposes nationalism, and that it is all right, but they are setting themselves and their people up for a very nasty shock. We in England put these newcomers in positions of power. Why? We give foreign prisoners the right to vote. Why? If we do not rein in immigration and take back the power we seem to so easily give away, we will all be sitting in a second-rate, third-world Islamic island that we have practically given to them. Who will be to blame? Well, Europe for one, and us for the second. If they allow Turkey into the EU, they will have 73 million Muslims to vote. The Muslim agenda couldn't be more plainly laid out for all to see, and we, to our shame, have allowed the election of Bangladeshi-born Latvor Rahman as mayor of Tower Hamlets to stand, knowing that he is linked to the Islamic Forum of Europe, dedicated to changing the very structure of our society. It would seem that all governments are so frightened of us nationalists they would prostitute themselves and their people on the altar of Allah. How long will it take for us to realise what is happening and take action? And finally, the Pacific Ring of Fire has been watched by millions around the west coast of America to Japan. The Ring of Fire occurs when the moon is at its furthest point from the sun in the sky, and it produces a huge and wonderful ring of fire. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart, and I wish you all a very good night.